At Kimimoto, we started with a simple problem, a misaligned bolt that ruined a riding trip. That frustration sparked a decade-long journey to change the game for riders everywhere. From our first UTV rearview mirror to an entire lineup of quality, easy-to-install accessories, we're here to help you ride smarter, not harder. With a team of passionate designers and engineers, we turn ideas into innovative products fast, always improving based on your feedback. Join the Kimimoto family and make every ride easier. Visit kimimoto.com today. Kimimoto. This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Marriott's on the move.
What?
Marriott's on the move.
Again?
Marriott's on the move.
If you are dreaming about moving to a new city to pursue the life of your dreams, this podcast is for you. Moving 18 times in 23 years to 5 of America's top cities, I know it's not easy to make those decisions alone. I help you develop the dream, the plan, and the move, even if we need to get scrappy to get you there. I'll be doing interviews, career and city spotlights, and sharing my crazy moving stories, tips, tricks, and scams to avoid. Traveling to explore your dreams has never been easier. Now let's get moving. Welcome to the show, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have a special guest. Her name is Ann Vogt, and she is the host of the What If It Works podcast, where she's a culture coach, teaching people how to create positive change at work, at home, and in your relationships. Ann shares stories and action steps to help you create a culture where you and others thrive, which, if you've been listening to this show at all for any given time, you know that is right up our alley. It is right in the Fred framework where you're building a community and an ecosystem. So I'm excited because she has a proprietary method called Impact Method, which allows people to grow in their purpose and live out their passions at work and at home. And can you see why I want her on the show? And I'm so excited you're here. We had an awesome conversation before we hit record. I wish I could have captured that because it was really funny. But thank you for being here today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. I'm excited for our conversation too. You know, when energy just matches, like that's
Totally.
where I feel like we're headed. So
Well, it's funny because most people had never heard of a transition coach or a relocation coach, which I don't know that there are that many out there, but I've never heard of a culture coach. So what compelled you to start this journey? Because I just love everything about what you're doing.
I love it. I hadn't heard of a culture coach either. I felt like I kind of created it, but if you Google culture coach, there are more out there. So I can't claim that I coined the term. But I started out in education. So back in 2005, I graduated college, got a teaching job right away, and just went out into the world. This young little 22-year-old who was ready to just change the world and make it a better place through my education or through my teaching. I taught social studies for 9 years. Absolutely loved it. I had 7th graders and 10th graders. And when I started teaching in 2005, kids were confident. They would tell me they were going to be in the NBA or the NFL, or, you know, that they were going to be lawyers and doctors and teachers. And slowly over the 9 years of me teaching, I kind of noticed a shift that kids' confidence really started to go down. I started to fall into a really big negativity trap. And one day I had my husband say to me, "Have you ever thought about quitting?" And I was like, absolutely not. I am hashtag teacher for life. Like, no way. And he said, okay, well, you're just kind of a different person lately. I was pregnant with my 2nd child. And he said, I really think you should think about walking away. So I did. So this was the year 2014, walked away from teaching, had my 2nd baby, worked for a nonprofit in the meantime. And then about 2 years later, I had the opportunity to go back into the classroom because we needed insurance and, you know, just different things like that. So I thought, you know what, let's just go back in. I loved it. I miss it. I had this little sabbatical to get me recharged, right?
Yeah.
Talk about a transition and kind of like sitting in the void for a little bit so that I could get recharged to go back in. And I got placed into an art classroom. So I taught social studies originally, where there is information and you are asking kids to utilize that information to, you know, create projects. And now I was going into an art classroom where you are teaching them a skill And then they are just like creatively exploring that skill and their own brain. It was life-changing. Watching kids who hated social studies be super confident in art, showing up on time, showing up early, helping their neighbors, helping myself who was new to the art classroom. I was just astonished at the difference in the behavior that I was seeing in some of these students who I had taught just a couple years earlier.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, this is pre-pandemic. Normally this doesn't happen. The social studies teacher in the building actually left at the end of my art sub time. My principal walked in. Yeah, that was wild. It was literally fate. If you are a believer, like it was fate that I had somebody leave and my position was now open and I was able to just transition into that role. But now I had such a different perspective on kids, on belief, people who believe in themselves and their skills. I had A+ students who were my social studies students who hated art. And guess what? They were not present. They were making sure that they were going to do their band lesson during art class. Yeah. They were frustrated and angry and snippy with me. And I really noticed that lack of confidence was changing their behaviors. So when I went back into my social studies classroom, I instantly thought to myself, okay, first things first, we got to create a room of confident individuals. So instead of focusing on curriculum, I focused on their confidence. And I saw a complete culture shift with the students all over the building who I was working with in my classroom. I had my principal coming in saying, I just had a student that I was about to kick out of school. And he started crying and said, but can I go to geography quick? And what is going on? Yeah.
What are you doing in that room?
That this now, then I taught 8th graders that this 8th grade boy wants to be in here. And I thought, he has a project that he's going to present today and he's super excited about it. And he's been working really hard. And so how did I become a culture coach? I was in that environment for a couple years. I ended up deciding, hey, I can't go all in on motherhood and being a teacher at the same time. I am a little bit of a perfectionist. I'm working on it, friends. I'm working on it. But
recovering perfectionist.
I am a recovering perfectionist. Yes. It's just, it's a slow process.
Yeah.
It's a slow burn.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to be a great mom. And I felt like I was giving a lot of my great energy to my students and they loved it. And it really did strongly impact them. But I wanted to bring that impact home. I started working for another nonprofit and had the opportunity to go to a sales training. So get this, since we're talking transitions, I went to a sales training. They said, hey, at this sales training, you cannot sell what you came here to learn how to sell. We need you to sell something else. So I thought, okay, what can I sell? What can I sell? How about I sell like how to create a classroom culture where kids feel like they can belong and they can thrive. Okay, that's what I'll do. And the whole training, that's what I was selling. Day 2 out of a 3-day workshop, they came up to me and said, hey, Anne, we love what you're doing. We can tell you're so passionate about this project and, your job. We need you to sell something that doesn't exist. And I was like, this doesn't exist.
This doesn't exist.
Yeah. Nobody's talking to teachers about creating cultures. This doesn't exist. So I'm just doing this for fun. And they were like, okay, change the script. You need to leave here and go sell that.
Do this.
So that was 2020, March 3rd.
Oh, good timing.
Of 2020. Literally was down in Atlanta, Georgia. And while I was there, the second case of COVID hit the United States in Atlanta, Georgia, while I was at the airport. Either way, started out then thinking, man, culture. Yeah, let me help teachers create a culture where students want to be, where they can be confident, they can feel valued, and therefore they can see the potential in themselves and really achieve. So I went all in that route originally my first 2 years. And then I had a businesswoman sitting in on a teacher workshop that I was giving. And she said, I'm not supposed to be here, but I'm so glad I'm here. Yeah. You need to come to my company and you need to give this same thing, but instead of using the words teachers and students, you need to use the word managers and employees. Will you please do that? And I was like, sure, let's do that. So that's what I do. For the last 2 years, I've gone all in on culture coaching. So I help businesses get really clear on the culture they want to create. And then I work with their managers and all levels of their company to really look at those few things. How confident are people in their roles? I believe confident people take action. And so if you have people who are feeling stuck, they're not going to take action. They're not going to move your company forward. And then, how are we valuing employees? How are we appreciating them? How are we connecting them to create an environment where people want to work hard? They want to do their best work, and they know they're going to be celebrated for it.
Wow. First off, did you know anything about art when you took the art teacher or something? I mean, because that seems intimidating to me. My stepmom was a former art teacher. She retired as an art teacher, but I have zero art in my body.
I have zero visual creativity. I literally started out being like, some of you have seen my drawing of the United States of America. You're fully aware. I am bringing zero artistic talent to the table. Here's what I know how to do. I know how to read lesson plans, and I know how to keep you guys on task. So that's what I'm here for. And that experience, watching students who did not thrive in my room originally now became the teachers of the room. And I got to really lean in and utilize their strengths, which is something I teach in culture coaching too, like really utilize the strengths of your people. That changed the game for me when I went back into the social studies classroom, because I realized all these kids have so many more strengths than I think as a teacher I was pulling out of them. I wanted them to write papers. I wanted them to do debates. I wanted them to create PowerPoint presentations and posters. And that was all great. But man, there's a whole nother side of learning and showcasing your learning that I really wasn't leaning into for a lot of my students. And so that was a total game changer for me to see how, if you allow a kid to make a rap about American history, you are going to gain so much yourself, while this student think of all the skills it would take you to write a rap about an American history event.
Totally. And you're going to remember it.
And you're going to remember
I would remember it more than I would, if you just told me about it.
And you're not just memorizing facts and making them rhyme. You're analyzing the whole situation and thinking about, so much more. So really, you're doing way more work than the kid who wrote a 5-paragraph essay. So
totally. And they're super into it. Oh,
yes,
so
they were super into it. They got connected to it a lot faster. I believe they got connected to me a lot faster, because now I was looking for what Mariette's strength was. I was looking
You're like empowering them.
Yes. And like, ooh, you love being in front of an audience. So when I need someone to stand up here and help me with something, like, I'm going to call on that girl. Or I had a boy who was so funny, so inappropriately funny. Not school appropriate funny.
School appropriate.
So funny that one day I held him after class and I said, listen, I need you to know that you have a future in comedy, in entertainment, and I do not want to put a roof on that.
Tamp that,
But we need to censor it a little bit. And you know what? That conversation went further than so many other things I could have done with that boy who kept making inappropriate comments. I mean, he came back the next day being like, okay, I'll censor it, but I'm going up a notch on the entertainment level. And it was great.
Well, and that's part of it. Like, you want a teacher that empowers you and teaches you how to be a good human, but you also need that guidance sometimes to say, like, hey, you're a little bit off track here down the road. But if you want to do stand-up comedy about, look at Hamilton. Look at Hamilton, right?
Perfect example.
Perfect example about how you can take lemons and make lemonade.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love this. It's
so that was the beginning.
Boom. Play it.
Have you ever listened to a commercial on the radio or a podcast and thought, I could totally do that? Well, I am challenging you today. Being a voiceover artist is an amazing side hustle that can be done from the comforts of your own home. Heck, it can be an amazing career. Just ask Jesse Carroll. Jesse's got over 1,000 voiceover credits to his name. Ever watch Backroad Truckers? He's the narrator. He's also done a ton of commercials for brands you would definitely recognize. If you're ready to try your hand at voiceovers, go to marriottsonthemove.com and head to my favorites page to learn more about his new digital course and coaching package. If you use code MOTM, you'll get 20% off at checkout. Have you heard of Monat or Modern Nature? I hadn't either before my friend Monica was raving about their skincare products that she's obsessed with. I took their hair quiz to find out which product line would be best for me since I just happened to be looking for new shampoo and conditioner, and I signed up for their VIP package that got me a little bit of everything to try out. Turns out they are the first anti-aging hair care line in the world, which I didn't even know was a thing. And their products are gluten-free, vegan, and Leaping Bunny certified, which means they're never tested on animals. Now I'm obsessed with their rich formulations that feature botanical extracts, essential oils, and other naturally based ingredients, and I want to share those products with you. I'll put the link in the show notes, or you can hit the faves page on my website. It's safe, EU approved, and clinically tested by third parties. So essentially, robustness approved. Now back to the show. I have a funny story, completely unrelated to any of this, about a social studies teacher. Because when I moved to the south side of Chicago, so I've lived all over the country. I've moved 18 times in the last 24 years to 5 different big cities. And I moved home. I'm from the south side of Chicago, southwest suburbs. And I moved into this house in Orland Park, and we renovated, we did all this stuff. And the neighbor in the yard behind me, he was watching his daughter's dog, and he and I got to talking because my dogs were out there and they were all, the dogs were kissing through the fence and everything. And so I'm like, gosh, you look so familiar. And I could not place him. And he was an older gentleman. And I said, do you work in IT sales? Because I'm thinking like maybe I've worked with this guy or know him from the culture or something, because my company's pretty big. And he's like, no, actually, I was a teacher. And I was like, oh, where did you teach? And he's like, I was a social studies teacher at Amos Alonzo Stagg High School. I'm like, what is your last name? Because all I knew him as Wayne. How many teachers knew your first name, or how many students knew your first name, right? And he's like, Wayne Mraz. I go, Mr. Mraz, like I had you in sophomore year. And he's like, I don't remember you. And I was like, well, that's good. That means I didn't do anything wrong. Right. But it was so funny because like, I literally went on like our class of 95 like Facebook group, and I was like, dude, I live behind Mr. Mraz. And everyone's like, oh my God, I love Mr. Mraz social studies. So just random so fun story. I mean,
the best people in education are in the social studies department. Let me just tell you, we're a fun breed.
I feel like you have a hard job though, because you have to learn like a lot of history, a lot that's happened with our country, which is great and vast.
Yes. Yeah. I know. I think at the end of college, we could teach 9 different subject areas. So it's psychology, sociology, criminology, U.S. history, geography, the whole gamut.
I didn't realize that's all. What is your major when you become that type of teacher?
Yeah, so it's literally called social studies education. So you go into an education degree, and then you graduate with a social sciences degree.
I had no idea. It like covers all of that.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Which is great. I worked in a very small town, and so you had to teach a lot of classes, but it was awesome that I had that flexibility to then pull and just do something different every time. I wasn't teaching 10th graders every single day over and over.
Right.
I got a lot of different kids from a lot of different age levels, which was awesome.
Oh my gosh. Well, so not necessarily just from a teaching perspective, but like you have a ton of companies that you've worked with on your website. So your website is anvote.com. And if you go there, you can learn about your methodology. But like, were there any challenges, both from like maybe a student perspective and just like the human interaction? Because I'm sure you were, meeting with a lot of teachers and things like that. Like, were there any challenges that you would hear come up over and over again, like as you were, just like from a human nature perspective?
Yeah, I think there's a couple. In company culture, the biggest thing right now is negativity and toxicity at work. And everyone wants to get rid of it. And that's kind of a lot of times good for me. That's why I get hired, is they're like, our culture is so toxic, fix it. Yeah. What's wild about that is my way of fixing that is like starting with the leadership. What are we modeling? What are we showing up for as leaders? Yeah. Now, how do we want to model that for the rest of our group? what are we going to allow? Where are we going to set boundaries? Right. And
Yeah.
so what they want is a solution, and my solution is literally them. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, we got to put in the work. And I'm like, that's where it starts.
Look in the mirror. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that. I could see that. That's,
And I think with schools then, or students as the audience, and a lot of the employees too, it's motivating. How do you motivate people to want to do their best? How do you motivate people to want to show up? And I root that instantly in people show up when they feel valued.
Yeah.
And people show
It's
up when they
true.
feel confident in how their work makes a difference for others. And if they are lost in those two things, if they don't feel valued and they don't feel confident that their actions even make a difference, am I going to show up on time? Am I going to choose to call in sick? If I'm a student, am I going to go to a class? Or am I going to find a reason not to be there? And so that was kind of first and foremost for me, is how do I make every student in here feel valued? And that's what I coach now leadership to do, is how can you make every single employee feel valued? And there's an easy way to do that. I know you mentioned the impact method.
Yeah.
I believe there's 6 steps to creating a culture where people can thrive. And one of those is appreciating people for who they are and the behaviors they are taking. And so my message out to parents and to leaders and to anyone in management is, anytime you see somebody doing something awesome, you need to show appreciation, because people in today's world, we don't feel seen, right?
Yeah.
We're doing a lot of this and we're watching everyone else. And we just kind of feel like we blend into the landscape. And so really helping people feel seen, in my opinion, increases their confidence, increases their value, and therefore would increase their taking of action, which is that motivation to get started.
Yeah, I love that. I honestly have been so I lead a team now. I'm in leadership at my company, and I'm very lucky. I have just this awesome group of men and women that are complete hustlers. Like half the time I feel like, what am I bringing to the table? Right. Like, 'cause they're so good. But I get that, like, there's not a single person that I've ever led, worked with, that doesn't want to like be good at their job. And that is the first thing. Like, when I find somebody, in fact, I was just mentoring somebody the other day, like, there was a little bit of a disconnect with what he was being asked to do and what his resources were, what he was trained to do, like the knowledge he had. And all I had to do was help him connect those dots, and it's like, we are still working on it. We're going to put time on the calendar, but he wanted to be good at his job. He wants to crush it. He wants to, provide and do well for the company. And I feel like that's with anything. That could be in your relationships at home. That could be like, in your friendships. Like, you want to be a good friend, but there are times when you find yourself getting into this negative pattern, maybe telling yourself untrue stories about the situation you're in or what you're doing or how you're doing it. But I think inherently people want to do good. And I would say, I don't know, you would probably have a better perspective on this, but I feel like most people like want to be optimistic versus pessimistic. Would you agree? Or what's your perspective on that?
I think so. The title of my keynote speech is Captain Your Culture. And I want people to own the idea that they can decide how they show up, how they engage with others, and what they bring to that table. Because like you said, I do think people want to be optimistic, but inherently, our brains are tuned to find the negativity in everything, right? Like, that's what we needed for survival. We needed to look for the threats. And so we do focus on the threats. And so when you feel safe and in an environment where you feel valued, that's when you're willing to put yourself out on the line, and you're willing to make mistakes, and you're willing to try new things to be that best version of you, because you're not worried about, oh, wait, when I make a mistake, I'm going to get fired. Or, when I make a mistake, I'm going to get reprimanded. And so I think that, yes, optimism exists and people want to be optimistic, but I think sometimes our brain is just attuned to the wrong thing. And what we set our brain to find, it will find.
It will find.
Every time. Our brains are incredibly proficient.
Yep.
And so really making sure that you are stepping in as the captain of what am I thinking about? What is my mindset? What am I coming with? What are my strengths? So that you can truly lead the people around you. And when I talk about captaining your culture, it might be the culture between you and your spouse. It might be the culture between you and your kids or in your home, but also at work, in your classrooms, right? Even as a coach, if, a coach can really create a culture within the team. And so, just really helping people see the optimism because you are captaining it and you are bringing it into the environment that you are going into. And we're in 10, 20, 30 different environments every single day. I'm in an environment standing in the line at the grocery store, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm creating a culture around me when I'm asking about why they bought 7 cantaloupes or whatever. So yeah, really helping people.
Do you.
Yeah, you do you, but I got questions.
Well, but that's a good point, though. I mean, our brains are problem-solving devices. And if you go into the conversation with yourself, if you are being a negative Nelly, sorry to all the Nellies out there, but like a lot of times, like when I'm going through and coaching somebody on their moves, I will literally say like, what if this were easy? Like, because they'll come at me with all kinds of like negative things. Like, I hate where I live. I hate my neighbors. I hate this. But I don't know where I want to live. And I'm like, no, you know what you don't want, right? You just told me all those things. What would it look like if it was easy? What would it look like if it were good? Start asking yourself those questions that kind of inspire you to start solving that problem in a positive way versus a negative way. Because that is huge. Because sometimes we tell ourselves these stories that we're in these situations that are not as bad as we think they are. But at the same time, it's hard to get out when you're down, like going down that downward spiral. It is hard to get out of it.
Yes. And I think when you're in a transition, you're so nervous that the next step is going to be a step backwards. Or what if I get back into a culture that I don't like? What if I don't like my boss? What if I move into a city and I don't like where I live, or I meet my neighbors and I don't like that? And yes, you could think about that and journal on that for weeks, months, years, and you will never move because that is what you are so focused on. And so, yes, really training the mindset, which I think both of us do as coaches. It's like you got to start from a place of growth and positivity. And that's step one in my impact method. That literally is step one. It is investigate. Let's investigate you. I don't even want to talk about your culture. I want to investigate you. Who are you being? Who are you showing up as? What's your mindset look like? Right? Yeah. Then investigate what kind of a team do you want? Because a lot of times companies or leaders will want to tell me about why their team, the one they have right now, isn't moving and it's their fault. And this is what I have for a team. And that's why my job is hard. And I always no, time out. What do you want though? Let's investigate. What do you want from your team? What kind of people do you want? What kind of skills do you want them to have? And guess what? We as role models, as mentors, we can go build that tomorrow. You want more collaborative people? Great. At the staff meeting tomorrow, you're going to ask for collaboration. You want more people being flexible? Great. The next time in a staff meeting, you see somebody being flexible, you thank them for their flexibility. But you got to know what you want before you go tell me that your culture is toxic or negative. Well, what do you want? Right. And getting really clear on that. And then lastly, we obviously investigate what kind of culture do you want? What is it going to sound like when you walk into the office? What is it going to feel like? What is it going to read like in emails? What kind of communication are you going to have? Right. And so, the beginning of the impact method is first, you got to know what you want, right? I feel like that's in any coaching that people do. Even if you're coaching somebody for weight loss, the first thing is what do you want? Let's get really clear on that so that we have a goal to work towards, right? Yeah.
Ooh, so what's the M?
Yeah. So the M is model.
Intrigued.
Yeah, I know. Let's go, right? So the M is model. So a lot of times I will have teachers or leaders or managers say, well, I need X, Y, Z. Great. Are you modeling X, Y, or Z? And if you're not, I don't need them necessarily modeling the exact work, but I need them giving clear expectations so that people can be confident in taking action. And so if you want to get rid of negativity, then we need to create a more positive environment. We need to set boundaries around that negativity, and we need to create space for positivity, right? So how can we model that as a leader each and every day so it becomes the culture? You know, I used to have students who they were great in my room because that's where they knew they were valued and trusted and, you know, believed in. But they weren't great in either other people's rooms or in the hallways or in the cafeteria. And one year I had lunch duty, and I remember walking up to this table and I was like, this is not who I know you to be. And they were like, but we're in the cafeteria. It's different. And it was amazing to me that they could like decide in their heads that when we're in your space, we're going to act in this certain way. When we're not in this space, I'm going to do me, right? Now, putting that to a work environment, I want your employees to start to act a certain way around you because they feel believed in and they feel valued and they feel trusted, and then they feel secure to fail and make mistakes, right? And so how can we model an environment like that? And like I said, first you got to know what you want, then you got to start building it yourself, because you can't just expect to be like, all right, here we go. These are our new rules. This is our new stuff we're all going to do tomorrow. Nobody's buying that. They want to see that.
Let me tell you, it's not going to work.
It's not going to work. And you're going to walk out and you're going to tell me a week later, and I told them and they didn't do it. Well, of course. Right. Right. So so modeling is really about expectations. I teach a strategy called vision casting, where you can actually set people in the future. Like, have you ever had a coach or a teacher or a boss say, I can't wait until you, and they say something about your future that you didn't even think was possible, right? And you go all in on that belief. And you're like, wow, I didn't really think about that I could be a teacher, or I didn't really think about how I could be the captain when I'm a senior. But here is this adult who believes in me wholeheartedly. And so I teach a strategy on how can we use that in our everyday language to really put people in the future, show them what they can achieve, tell them what they can achieve, truly believe in them so that they start taking actions to achieve that. While we're not even there. The name of my business is actually Impact to Influence. We want to impact people, but influencing means we're not even present. And they're changing their behavior, and they're changing their development, and they're changing their character, who they are as their character. And so that's really what we want as leaders, is how can we really be modeling for people so that they start taking action without you, standing over and staring them down, right?
Because nobody loves that either. I always, I was a cheerleader growing up, and they always said, like, the body achieves what the mind believes. And if you could see it, then you could be it. And like, it is so true. Like that visualization and acting as if you're in that role. Like, again, people want to please their bosses, but I can tell you from a leadership perspective, when my team is like working together and we're vibing and we've got good energy and we're sharing and collaborating, like it feels good to be their manager. So I enjoy my job more when they're happier too. Like that ripple effect is not just with you. It can show in the organization. It can, and in that good behavior can be just as quickly adapted as the toxic behavior can be, right?
Absolutely. So, that's kind of my favorite win as a teacher was when I set really high expectations for my students. If you are listening and you feel like you are in an environment where there are not high expectations, raise the bar. Don't think people love low expectations. People actually love to, set their sights on something and really try to achieve that. And so I had these high expectations. I was very clear each and every day. Here's the expectation for the day. Here's the activity. Here's what I expect to see and hear in this room at this time. And I had this kid just blurt out a question in the middle of work time. And I had another kid take his headphones off. And he was like, hey, just a heads up. During work time, if you have a question, you need to get up and go to her desk instead of yelling. And then he just like put his headphones back on. And the kid he was talking to was like, oh, that's right. And like walked over to me. And I was like, so I'm an emotional human.
So proud. Yeah.
I had the proudest tears. And then I was just like, hey, first off, thank you for listening to so-and-so and coming over here. I just really appreciate that. And he was like, yeah, I forgot. That's what we do in here. And I was like, yes, we do.
Music
right.
to my ears.
Yeah. So you talk about the ripple effect is,
Yeah.
had I even not been in the room, that student, I think, would have said the same thing, right? Like, because they now are confident in the culture we've created as a class, as a group, as a team. And now they're confident in telling somebody else, hey, that's not what we do in here. Here's what we do in here. It was
just probably a future like law enforcement officer too.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny you ask. I'm trying to think of what he's doing because, you know, these kids are now my, like, that group of kids after I came back. They'd be like just getting out of college. So I'll have to figure out what he's up to. But so
I
good.
will say, I've heard in the past, and I'm not married, so you might have a better perspective of this, but I've always heard in the past, like in relationships, like whether it's like a marriage or just dating somebody, that like a lot of times breakups happen because of unmet expectations. Not necessarily that they weren't good
1000%.
together, that they had these like unspoken rules that you were supposed to follow, that you didn't know what you were supposed to do. And like, I mean, what's your perspective on that?
It's such a great question. So a lot of times, I'll use a business example, but we can definitely transfer it to your spouse, to your significant other, to whoever is in your life, right? Is I will say over and over, people will come to me and say, I've told them that's my expectation. I've told my husband what I want. I've told my employees what I need. And I'm like, when was the last time you told them? And a lot of times employers will be like, on day one, they heard. And I'm like, okay, well, we're on day 1017.
Right.
So
right.
maybe we need to restate that expectation. And that's exactly what I would tell you in relationships too. Like, we need to state our expectations, and not in a way of like, I'm the boss. This is my expectation. Expectations are respectful, because when you are clear on what you expect, your spouse, your kids can now take action knowing that's what the expectation is, right? And they can be more confident and they're going to take action faster, honestly, in my opinion. And so, yes, I think there's a lot of unmet expectations because they're not spoken. They're just assumed. My husband and I grew up in very different households. I had a dad who came home at 3:30, did all the cooking, all the cleaning, all the laundry, and got us to sports. Wow. So like, my expectation of a husband was like that.
A unicorn?
Yeah.
Although I will say, my best friend's husband does that too. So Tommy Colgan,
they're out there.
Yes,
they're out
there. They're out there. Yes.
Yes. But my husband had very different expectations. And so we have had to talk about that, right? And just say like, hey, so something I'm noticing is this behavior, but what I'd love for us to be doing is this behavior. And, you know, again, you're not approaching it as like, I'm in control, I'm the boss. You're approaching it as, hey, here's what's been happening. Here's what I'd love to see happen. And then my big thing is you got to get agreement. You got to make sure they're on the same page with you. And and I do
clear
think,
visions.
Yeah, I think relationships can really shift when people start getting clear with each other on what they want, so that the other person like can take action
Respects
in that way.
it.
Yes.
Well, and I think
good
too,
about it.
Yeah, so a lot of what I in the Fred framework in coaching, I talk about your ecosystem, and it's the community that you've moved from and the community you've moved to. And we've talked on the podcast with different guests that have come on about how hard it is to make friendships as an adult, right? When you're moving, it's a lot easier when you just get out of college or you just get out of high school and you're like, you know, everybody's trying to find their own way. But if you're moving to San Diego and you're in your 40s, like, that's a much different like networking. That's a much, you're set in your ways. But I think there's also something very liberating about having a friend group where you're like, hey, this isn't okay with me. Like, I don't typically do that, but I can appreciate that you love that. So you go do you, I'm going to do me. Like, and I feel like creating that boundary helps us to know like what you like, what you don't like, how to befriend you in a way that is respectful, but also impactful and supportive of who you are as a human. Because that's the last thing you want to do when you move to a new place is like, you know, make a lot of enemies. I don't know. Like, I would think you want to be friends with the new people or that you're living around. So, you know, that's
and I think it's really great for other people then to say, oh, Anne doesn't like going out for drinks, but Anne loves playing pickleball. And hey, it's a beautiful day today. Let's invite her along. Right? Versus, I don't even know if I should reach out to Anne. I don't know if this is her vibe. I just won't. And then that's kind of the pattern we start getting into, is like not inviting other people or not making connections because we're worried about if it's a good fit or not, instead of just like
Right.
coming out and asking, like, hey, a bunch of us are
Yes.
doing this. Is that something you'd be interested in? Like, we're doing that this weekend. We don't have enough space, but if we do that again, would you like to be invited? Right. And yeah,
Yeah.
just being really clear on what you
Yeah.
like and what you don't like, so people can, again, be more confident in making that connection when it comes up. I think that's
Totally.
great advice for like friend groups, moving new places. Even if you're at the gym and you run into somebody you've never met, being like, hey, I'm new here, being really clear and
Yeah.
upfront, like, I'm new here. I'd love to get to know people. Or, you know, is there a good restaurant nearby? Or what's the, you know,
Yeah.
and just like start a conversation, but being open to like, I'm open to friends instead of
Yes.
sitting with our earbuds in the
I
gym
know. I hate
looking
that.
unapproachable. Right.
Well,
So,
we don't get in community enough these days. And I like,
mm,
I just feel like there's this whole feeling in the world right now that people like you say, like there's general burnout. They're undervalued, underconfident, not feeling good about themselves. And then we're moving to places where you're forced to make new friends or not. And then it's even worse because you're isolating and now you hate the place that you're living, but you've never even stepped outside your door to see if your people are out there, right? Like, what a difference
yeah,
it makes when you are in a community of people that lift you up and do the things that you like to do. But it takes a little work, right? It's a little research.
absolutely.
Like, I know younger adults are more prone to going on TikTok and Instagram, although I did a focus group with a group of college kids, and they told me that Facebook and Instagram are for really old people. And I was like,
They're
hey, I'm
dying.
47. I know. Like, I love the Instagram, but Facebook, I'm not as much on it, which I do have a
Mhm.
Facebook group, and I'm sorry for those in it. I'm like very rarely in it, but it takes me everything I can just to get on the Instagram, much less learn TikTok. Right.
Agreed.
But that's
Yeah.
the thing, is that like they can connect with people on the lives, they can connect with people, and then you can go meet in person and like have that general, like really, really feeling in, you know, in your brain, and bounce things off of people. And I don't know. So I feel like I'm going off on a tangent,
No,
but
you're okay. I'm glad people are using that as a tool to then meet in person. I
yeah,
do think we have kind of an interesting trend right now where kids would tell you they have a lot of friends, they have a lot of connections, but when it comes down to like face to face, true energy sharing connections, they're lacking in that. And so really helping people get out there and put themselves out there, which has always been scary, but I think it's on a new
yeah,
level of scary or fearsome for a lot of people because they're used to connecting this way, right? I'm sending you memes,
yeah,
I'm sending you TikToks, and no, we're friends, but
right,
we're not having genuine connection or genuine conversation. Or like I said, just sharing energy. You can just
yeah,
feel it when that's happening, and it
yeah.
doesn't come through on a screen in that same way.
I would
So
love, like, one of my original intentions, and I do still want to do this one day. I just don't know how to do it, because if, you know, people aren't using Facebook groups anymore, I'd have to get like Circles or School or one of those like platforms that does it. But I would love, love, love to create a community of people who are movers, who are considering moving. And when you go to visit those cities, you have a meetup. Like, I know Meetup is
yeah.
if you've not heard of that app, if you're listening, like there's an app called Meetup, and you can start a meetup for anything. You can start a meetup for new people that have just moved here, people that like pickleball, like you mentioned. Like, you can do a meetup for literally every. You can meet up and watch Dateline together. Like, there's so many random things that you can do on Meetup. But again, it's taking that action. Like, I run a Whole30 group. And Whole30, if you're unfamiliar with the program, it is a food reset. It basically takes the inflammatory foods out of your diet. I'm actually on round right now. I do it twice a year because I'm in remission for Crohn's, and that's how I keep my celiac and
So
my
good.
Crohn's in check, right? I keep the inflammation down. I had an administrator, like a girl that I made an administrator on in the group with me. She knew the rules. Like, she's an upholder. If you know Gretchen Rubin's like 4 tendencies, like she is like a rule follower. You know, the kid that said, you know, shut up and go up to the desk, like
The type
he
A.
was
Yep.
probably an upholder. Yeah, he was an
Yeah.
upholder. So so Michelle lives in the greater Austin area. She lives in a suburb of Austin. And a couple of years ago, I was going out there for Savvy was the clothing company that I launched. It's on my favorites page. It's still one of my favorites. I still wear the clothes every day. But we launched the brand in Austin. We went to Austin City Lights. And so I reached out to her and I was like, this might be weird, but you and I have been quote unquote friends for 2 years now. We even were talking on the phone, you know, we we're friends. Do you want to grab coffee in real life? And she was like, absolutely. Yes. Like, didn't even hesitate. When are you coming in? And like, we made it happen. And it was so weird because just as I figured, because we are good friends, like texting and like, it was like we had known each other for years. And now, and literally, I was just out in Austin a couple weeks ago for Rogue Media had their Waco block party. I went out for that. We recorded the podcast live in a theater, which was super cool. And I met up with her. We celebrated her engagement at a restaurant, and awesome. We are actually real friends, but we met online, you know? So like, I know it's possible and I know it's hard, but that connection is so impactful, not to like be cheeky on your method, but it's so impactful when you can actually like become friends with somebody and then meet them in real life.
Yes. And I think I totally agree with you. It takes one of you taking action, because the other way it could have gone is you don't tell her, you post about it and she's like, oh my gosh, I wish you would have reached out, you know? And then it's like, oh, maybe she doesn't think of me as someone she could connect with. And, you know, and then you place doubt in their minds. And so absolutely.
Someone from that same exact group, her name is Jackie Jax. And I was out, and I think she lives in Arizona. I can't remember. It was a couple of years ago, but I reached out to her as well. And I was like, hey, we talk all the time. Do you want to meet up? And something, I don't know what was going on with her at the time, that she couldn't meet up or didn't want to meet up or thought it was weird, whatever. She was cool and respectful about it. Literally today, it's funny that we're talking about this and Michelle, because she's from that same group. I read a message from her today and she was like, I still regret not meeting up with you when you were here. Like, I think about that all the time. I'm like, girl, I'm on a plane every single week. Let me know where you live now and I will come and meet you and see your horses. Cause she like trains horses and stuff. She does all this cool, like PTSD work and stuff, but it happens in real life. But I want to hear the rest of the impact. I know, I feel
that's okay.
We've already been recording for 45 minutes almost. So what's the P?
Yeah. So I'll do the last 4 letters really quickly, because it's kind of self-explanatory. So the P stands for problem solve. So I teach a method called the 2-minute problem solver. And my big thing is problems take up the amount of time we give them. So problems can take a day to solve, a week to solve. As a teacher, we would run into problems in the fall and we'd still be talking about it in May. And then we'd go, well, it's the end of the year, so this problem is over. And then guess what happens the following October? We're back talking about the same problem. So I help people solve problems really quickly, really respectfully, and get other people using the same method. Because once I solve a problem with you, I want you using that same method the next time you need to solve a problem with me, because we both feel good in the exchange. So problem solve, we know problems are going to come up. Every culture, every workplace, you're going to run into problems, whether it be a product issue, whether it be a staffing issue, you're going to run into problems. Why not solve them faster? Because again, people want to be in environments where problems are solved and we don't dwell in them, right?
I love that.
Yeah. A stands for appreciate. Like I said, people need to be appreciated. People need to feel appreciated and feel valued. And I truly feel like if you are working somewhere and you're wondering why so-and-so in the desk next to you doesn't come in with energy, doesn't come in lit up, A, there might be something going on at home, but B, they might not be feeling appreciated. And so how can we really show them that they're valued and that what they bring to the table is necessary and needed and so, well received, so that they want to show up as their best selves, right? C stands for cultivate. So how do we cultivate connections with people? No, this isn't taking them out for drinks. This is like understanding people's situations, making a connection with them, and when they tell you on Friday that it's their child's baptism over the weekend, asking them on Monday, how did that go? Right? How do we, utilize people's names in a group setting, in a meeting where people understand, like, people like hearing their names. So
Yes.
how can they feel a little connection by their names being used, right? And so there's 10 different strategies in the Cultivate of like how you can really increase connections at work that make people feel good and that they want to be there. And then the T is transform. A lot of the times I end my workshops. So I do 2 to 3 hour workshops called impact workshops. And I usually end being like, wow, this has been incredible. We've talked a lot. We've learned some strategies. You've practiced the strategies. You've applied the strategies. Like, who's feeling good? And everybody's like, yes, this was great. And I'm like, great. Guess what's going to happen tomorrow? Nothing. Because you're probably not going to take action unless you dedicate yourself to the actions we talked about today. So at the end, transform is literally just like committing. Like, what are you going to commit to so that you can transform your culture? Because we can talk
you
culture.
Can use that
go ahead.
You can use that in so many different situations.
Yes.
Like, it is so true.
Well,
oh my
and
gosh,
think of all the workshops you've attended or the courses you've taken or the webinars you've been to where you're like, wow, this was so good. And then, now you have another call. Now you have to go pick up your kids. And then you don't apply any of the stuff you just learned. And so the last step is literally just pick a couple things. We're going to pick 3. What 3 things from today do you think will change your culture by next week? Like, what will you already see a shift in by next week if you commit to these 3 things? And then the follow-up a week later is, okay, now what can we commit to for the next 3 weeks? So then now it's been a month, right? And so you're really trying to get people to realize your actions make a difference. When you take action, people will receive that and then hopefully start to shift their own behavior. But it really does start with the leaders. It starts with the people who want to see the change. But I always laugh and say, like, whether you take action or not, like, nothing changes if you don't, go all in.
Nothing changes if nothing changes.
Yeah. And it's so true. And I like ending with that because it puts the ball in their court, right? And they've realized that slowly throughout the presentation that, like, I am the captain of my culture. I do have the power to change my own mindset. I don't have the power to change somebody else's actions. Nope. You never will. But you can change who you are. You can change how you speak. You can change how you believe in others so that you see a different result out of them, right? And so really leaving them with that belief and that motivation and that inspiration to go do something about it.
I love being able to like correlate that to a community that you're moving into, because a lot of times people leave where they're at. I mean, sometimes it's for jobs or getting married or whatever it is, but a lot of times you want to change. But that you have to be that change. I mean, and not to like quote, who is it, like Gandhi or something like that?
Yeah.
But you have to be the change you want to see. So if you want better friends, you need to be a better friend. If you want
100%.
better support, you need to be more supportive. Like I've come into, I mean, obviously I've moved a million times, but I've come into communities where people are like, oh yeah, like I feel like I have a great connection with them. But connection doesn't mean intention, right? So somebody can make a huge impact on me and we can have a great conversation. If they have zero intentions of ever hanging out with me again, I'll be a little hurt, but now I know that that's not my person and they're not going to be in my community and I'm not going to put my energy and like into seeing them, right?
Yeah.
That's huge, because you want to be able to create a community of people that you want to hang out with. Like,
yes,
I think of when I moved to San Diego, I got very, very, well, it was an interesting story because when I was moving to San Diego, my stuff got held hostage by the movers. So I had to get the FBI involved. Like, it was like a traumatic experience. Like, I found them on the Better Business Bureau. Like, I thought they were legit, all these things. So I get to San Diego, cute little 1-bedroom apartment. And the way the building looked, it was like, those outdoor motels where you like walk right up to the door. Like, that's what it looked like. And apparently that apartment had been vacant for a long time. Like 3 or 4 months. And so there were a lot of people that would go in and squat. So like I had I had the traumatic experience with movers. Then I move into it. I go on my first trip, like a couple weeks, like into me there. And somebody had spent some time in my apartment.
Terrifying.
Like left dishes in the sink. Like, if you don't want me to know you're there, do the dishes.
Clean up after
right?
yourself, please.
Wipe down the shower.
Did you
I
put that on the
literally was
door
like,
the next trip you took? Like, listen, if you're going to squat, I can't stop you, but I can ask you to please
Please.
clean up after yourself.
clean up after yourself. I don't mind if you stay here. It was like Airbnb before Airbnb was actually born. Like what was so funny is that,
but free.
but free Airbnb, which I would totally take advantage of if it was today. My neighbor was so funny, and this is a complete side note, but my neighbor was so funny. Like, he was a total surfer and he had just come out from surfing, and I like walked out and I was like, I think somebody's in my apartment. So he goes and he grabs a bat and he's like going through everything, and like nobody was there, but he had told me about the squatters. Anyway, I ended up talking to the landlord. I'm like, I just don't feel safe here. Is it cool if I moved out? And one of my friends that I knew in San Diego, she was like, hey, this girl Kara, lives here. I think she was just looking for a new apartment. I think you guys would get along really well. She's got a whole group of friends. Do you want to meet her? And literally, like, her and I end up meeting, and like, we're still friends to this day. She still lives in the apartment that we shared in San Diego, like 21 years later. But she literally brought me into this community of people that respected each other. We all had so much fun together. We all still are like liking each other's posts on Facebook and Instagram. And like, I feel like we're still a community within the greater community. And it was all because like we had those expectations. People often what didn't, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like that is so incredibly important, but I love impact, this impact method. So investigate, model, problem solve, appreciate, cultivate, and connect, I guess. Cultivate and connect.
Cultivate.
And then transform.
Yep.
Cultivate and transform. Like,
yeah.
Easy peasy.
I think you could totally apply this to, like you said, moving to a new city
Moving
too.
to a
Like
new
investigate, like, what do you want? Who do you And then, investigate, look around, figure it out, do some research on where you want to go based on that. And then when you show up, if you want people to approach you, be approachable, right?
Yeah.
Like
Be
so
nice.
much of that. Yeah. And I do think, so we just moved to the town that I live in. So I live in New Ulm, Minnesota. So I am officer sits right there at the one stop
And
sign.
everybody
Make
waves
sure
to
you
him,
stop.
probably. Yep. Yeah.
And everybody knows who he is, right? Because it's a small town. Anyways, and then we moved to a town in between those two towns, small town feel. But we knew we wanted to be here. We had the opportunity to move anywhere, and we wanted to be closer to family, and we wanted to be in a community that is going to support the kids, and there's going to be parks, and there's going to be businesses, and there's going to be places to go to eat, and those were things we were really focused on. And so when we moved here, I knew what I wanted, and then I was looking to then build those connections, right? I was like, is there a mom? It did take a lot of action on our part. Otherwise, in American society today, you can kind of buy a house and just like blend right into it. And never interact with the community and be isolated and blame then everything else around you. Right. And so, really stepping into like, what do you want, and going and getting it, because it's out there. I think that would be my message for anyone listening. Whatever you want, it's out there. You may have to stretch yourself. It may be challenging to go get it and find that you're just like, oh, I'm stuck. So now I'm going to be stuck forever. And that is there is no bigger lie that you could be telling yourself, right? So like, let that go.
Stephen Furtick, he's the pastor at Elevation Church. He just wrote a book, and one of his like principles in the new book is you're only stuck until you stop, or something like that. You're not stuck unless you stop. But that's exactly that. Like, it's collecting data on who you want to hang out with, where you want to be. And I actually, sometimes people will come to me and be like, I don't know where I want to move. And I'd be like, okay, what don't you want in a city? And then I'll make a list.
Let's go.
And then I'll say, okay, what do you love in your current community? And I'll make a list. And then together we'll get on ChatGPT, and I'll be like, okay, so this person is considering moving to, so I want to move around the city of New Ulm, Minnesota. I don't want these things in my town, but I do want these things. Where in a, certain mile radius would I be if I wanted those
Yep.
things. And
Yep.
literally ChatGPT will create a list of places that you can go and visit to see if you like them.
I love it.
I love using technology because when I started moving, in fact, I don't even think the Google was born until I lived in San Francisco. I mean,
Yeah.
so
I
yeah,
love it. You can actually, I'm going to do a little plug for New Ulm, Minnesota.
Tell me.
We are an incredible tourist site, which is wild. We only have 14,000 people. And we've been on the best small town in Minnesota, or best small town in the United States list for the last 15 years. Young, I put that in quotes, young group of entrepreneurs. They're in their 30s and 40s, but that's young for entrepreneurs, right? Who are coming back and buying these old rural downtown buildings and turning them into something incredible. So we have a brand new bookstore that's coming to town. We have a new third space that's coming. We've got restaurants downtown that all have kind of a different feel. It's just been really fun. There's a lot of people who come here because we have a total attachment to German heritage. It's a little unhinged, but it's there.
I should have my friend Christiane. She was on the podcast. Christiane Schroeter. She's from Germany.
Yeah.
She has the best accent ever.
Yes. So we have tons of people.
Which is a terrible rendition of
it.
That
was great, actually. I don't think I couldn't pull that out. And who knew a town of 14,000 people would be able to fulfill like all the things I want in a city and a community. And it's just incredible.
Don't overlook those small towns. I mean, look at Ben and oh my gosh, from they live in Mississippi. Oh my gosh, but they literally one house at a time are renovating it, and people now want to move there, and they've redone the whole city. Like, I think that is the heartbeat of America. Like, we need to put some more purpose into some of these towns, because this is the greatest country on earth. I am completely convinced of it. I legitimately think that we have the means to do it, but it's up to us to take that action and clean up and make these communities. Like, I had a whole conversation with this woman, Kathy, about how, like, if you want to create a community, it's very easy. You just have to create the community. Like, you have to, like, make a place where people want to go. Like, it would be very easy. Like, my subdivision is great because, like, everybody's in their like 30s and 40s, and like there are a couple kids, but most people have dogs. But we've created this little community where like people hang out. Like, I hang out with a lot of my neighbors, right? So I mean, I think that it's doable, but you have to create that environment that you want to be in, and it starts with you.
Yeah.
Team of one.
And I think going back to the very first thing we talked about, you could sit in your community and say, I wish, or you could get taking action and make it happen. Right. And so,
I'm sure
and
other people have that same vision. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. You just got to find them. Well, Anne, this has been amazing. I just looked down and we've been already recording for over an hour. So I feel like we could have this conversation in New Ulm, Minnesota. Maybe I'll have to come visit.
Come on over. I'll show you all the things.
I'll be a tourist. I love it. I love it. Well, if somebody wants to work with you or have you in their company or find you on social media or learn from you, how do they find you?
Yes, absolutely. You can go to annvote.com. That's ANNVOTE, just like you vote in election season. And on there, you can click contact me and tell me a little bit about your company and what you're looking for. And then we jump on the phone and make sure we have a plan that fits you and your needs. You can also find me on social media. I am on Facebook on Impact to Influence, or you can head over to Instagram. It's just @AnnVote. But yes, this has been so fun. Again, I knew it from the energy. You're my people. This is fantastic.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. And I will put all of her information in the show notes. Gosh, thank you so much. This has been great.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I could go on forever and ever about moving you closer to your dreams, but I probably should save some thoughts for the next episode. A big thanks goes out to you for making time for me today. And making time for me, you're making time for future you, and we're both grateful. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe to the podcast, download the episodes, and leave me a 5-star review. I would really appreciate it. In return, if you go to my website, marriottsonthemove.com, and register for the Monday mailer, I'll send you a free Fred workbook to get your journey started. This is also where you can find all the show notes and all the ways to get in touch with me. A special thanks goes out to Rogue Media for its wisdom and partnership. Until next time, friends, keep moving forward towards your dreams. Oh, and the legal stuff. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. I am a certified coach, not a licensed therapist, and this is not meant to replace the professional advice of a physician, psychotherapist, or other qualified professionals. This is solely my perspective based on my own experience and training. Okay, now it's over. For reals. Bye for now.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.